Do you have a business or organization to promote? Ideas to share? HudsonRiverRadio.com can help you every step of the way. From setup to recording, editing, and distributing your show, we have everything you need. Email us at info@HudsonRiverRadio.com and we'll get you started. HudsonRiverRadio.com. It beats listening to nothing.
Being frank, where the only way to be is frank.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Being Frank, where the only way to be is frank. I'm your host, Frank Lebrono. I hope you're ready for some intelligent conversation, because that's what we do around here. We are streaming live from the studios in Stony Point with Neil Richter, our engineer, driving the bus up in Stony Point, New York, going live on the World Wide Web. Now remember, you can watch us anywhere you hear your favorite podcast. Apple TV, listen to me, she gets so lucky. On Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all your other streaming services. Now, we've also added a new video service in addition to Facebook, if you want to go and tune in and see exactly how handsome I am. Nod, nod, wink, wink. We've added a new link. If you go to the Hudson River Radio website and go to the Twitch TV link and click on that, you'll be taken to Twitch TV, which I understand is a very clean signal and something you might enjoy. And if you do enjoy Being Frank, we ask you to subscribe, again, to any one of your favorite podcasts so that we can continue to bring you this great program. And again, we've got a great show for you tonight in two parts. The second half, we're going to bring our man, our specialist in First Amendment issues, Professor Paul Levinson, will be joining us. But before that, I want you to meet a very special person who is working and doing great work, and especially important this month, which is Autism Awareness Month, which is to help us understand people with special needs who are around us all the time, every day. I think I can, without hyperbole, say that virtually all of us know someone who has a special needs person within their household. And so therefore, it's a very important topic. So without any further ado, I'd like you to welcome the Chief Executive Officer of a wonderful organization known as Joanio, and she'll tell us more about it. I don't have to tell you, that's why she is here. Please welcome Randy Rios Castro. Randy, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us this evening on Being Frank.
Thanks, Frank, for having me on your show tonight.
You know, let's start before we get into Joanio, and it's a place that I've known of thanks to Diana Hess, a good friend who helped organize this, and we thank her for that as well. You've been doing this for a long time, and we're going to let you talk about that. But before we get there, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and how you wound up at Joanio.
Okay, so again, I'm Randy Rios Castro, the Chief Executive Officer for Joanio. I've been at Joanio for almost 4 years. I've spent the last 25 years in the human services field, probably the last 24 of that working with individuals with developmental disabilities, and most recently at Joanio, serving a wide variety of people over many different program types. So I'm, pretty much dedicated my life to the human service field, and it's something I'm very passionate about, and I'm always looking, for ways that we can help people in our community.
Excellent. Well, let's talk a little bit about the organization that you represent, Joanio. And interestingly enough, I know it comes from a Native American word, which means independence, which I know fits into very much so into your mission statement. But tell us a little bit more about what Joanio is, how long you've been there, and I know it's been a very long time, and you'll tell us about that, and exactly what is it that you do, what is your mission, what you hope to accomplish.
Yeah, so Joanio's been in the Rockland community for 75 years, so this is actually our 75th year. They were incorporated in 1947, founded by a group of families that really wanted something better for their children. It started off, small as a camp, and quickly developed. And now we deliver lifespan services. So we have programs really from birth through end of life. We have an early intervention program where we have developmental groups. We provide different types of therapies in that program, from physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech counseling services. And we have a preschool program that also, it's an integrated program that works with individuals, both typically developing and individuals with developmental disabilities and some chronic medical conditions. We also have a summer education program that operates for 6 weeks over the summertime, and we provide education to school-age children over that time, as well as some recreational activities. We have a respite program, so those are really after hours, after school, where we help to support people outside of their regular school day. We have a rehabilitation program where we're delivering, services both in Rockland and Westchester County, mostly to individuals with developmental disabilities, and we focus on adult learning, volunteering, community connections. There's some recreational programming that happens in that program as well. We have pre-vocational services that we provide that teach people work readiness skills, their typical work behaviors, skills training that they get. And then we also provide supportive employment services. So we help people that are ready to get a job, help them, learn about all the skills that they need, help them find employment that, works with, with their skill set, and it's integrated in the community. And we work with a lot of businesses in Rockland and Westchester County to do that. We also provide residential services. So we have a number of group homes throughout Rockland County.
Okay.
One
of my questions.
And in a variety of settings. So, people that need 24-hour support to people that, just need periodic support. And we're there to help them grow and increase their independence. We also have an Article 16 clinic, which provides a number of different therapy services as well. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and counseling services. And that's in our New City location. We have a mental health program, personal recovery oriented services. And that is really focused on, person-centered, and it's a strength-based approach. And we're really helping, people that are having some mental health challenges to get back on track and help them, get back to their regular lives. It has counseling, they have classes, we do job assistance with them, and we provide psychiatric services. We have a front porch program that is, another gathering place for people that are experiencing mental health challenges. It's run by peers. It's recreational in nature. They bond through shared experiences and mutuality, and they do a lot of different group activities there. We also provide health home care management. So those services are really focused on wellness and are available to adults that are Medicaid eligible, that have mental health challenges, behavioral diagnosis, or 2 chronic medical conditions, and or are HIV positive. And it provides, a lot of assistance helping them, obtain different resources that they need in the community and supports, and really helps them to reach whatever goals that they have attained. In addition, we have a consumer-directed personal assistance program. This is a program for people that, are on Medicaid and need assistance, where they can get that in their own personal home. So it's a really, great program. In Westchester County, we have a number of drop-in centers throughout the county. And again, those are really for, people that have some mental health challenges. And again, it provides some recreational activities for them. They get a healthy dinner. We help them with job placement activities. And finally, we have our Green Clean cleaning company, where we employ people in a variety of settings, both disabled and non-disabled workers, and they clean, any number of sites, both in Westchester and Rockland County. Just for example, we clean the Yeager Center, the White Plains Courthouse. So we really provide a lot of different types of services for individuals. Most recently, through our legislative grant, we were able to add a autism resource and training center. And these are really workshops that help families, community-based organization, first responders really, learn more about individuals that are on the spectrum and provides them some techniques to help them in those interactions and get people, back on track with where they need to be.
This is an enormous undertaking. So with that, I have two questions. How many people do you serve in any given time?
Yeah, so we serve about 3,500 people annually. Joanio has really touched tens of thousands of lives since their existence. We are a very large employer in Rockland County, the seventh largest employer. We have over 750 individuals working for us.
Wow.
We span multiple counties. So, primarily in Rockland and Westchester, but we do reach up into Orange County. We do have services in parts of the Bronx. So we're a pretty big part of the lower Hudson Valley community.
And obviously in a huge operation. How are you funded? Is it totally not for profit? Is it government funded? Do you take donations? Do you do fundraising? How do you raise your funds?
All of the above. We're primarily government funded. A lot of our programs, although they don't pay for everything. So we do have a lot of fundraising events. Right now we have our Hometown Heroes Challenge going on for Autism Awareness Month. And this Hometown Heroes Challenge is actually raising money for our early intervention program. Again, that program serves, children from birth to 2.5 years old. It's been chronically underfunded for years, and without donations and grants, that program just wouldn't exist. We just wouldn't be able to do it. So the Hometown Heroes really, it's peer-to-peer fundraising. It's, Rockland County's high schools competing against each other for bragging rights over the next year. So if people haven't gotten involved, it's not too late. You have a couple more days to join one of the teams and help us reach our goal of $50,000 for the early intervention program.
This may be a rhetorical question because obviously you couldn't have been there for the beginning 75 years ago. However, as an expert in the field and someone so closely associated, how has our ability to deal with people with special needs changed over the course of 75 years? What's improved? What needs to be improved? Where were we? Where are we now? Where should we be going?
Yeah. So, definitely pre 75 years ago, we had institutions, right? So people were institutionalized and weren't very well cared for. Now it's all person-centered. It's all about the goals of the individuals that we're supporting and trying to get them as independent as possible to help them achieve the goals that they've set out for themselves. So, at the core of what Joanio does and true to our name is independence. So our goal is to work with individuals on those goals, help them to, go through the continuum of services and progress each step of the way. So, we have many people that may start off needing, substantial assistance, and that gradually they become less dependent on that support and able to get out and get work and support themselves. So that's our primary goal at Joanio. We really have some terrific staff that work for us. They are really passionate about what they do, and everything that they do is geared towards helping people achieve their goals.
And I wanted to talk to you a little about that. Obviously, your focus of our conversation, your clients, if you will, but also the people that work there. It must take a special breed. Obviously, there must be rewards, but let's face it, there has to be enormous challenges. They're not called special needs people for nothing. They have special needs, therefore they need special care. That must take, and forgive me for the alliteration, but that must take a special person and personality. Explain some of the people or describe some of the people that work at Joanio and why they love being there.
Our staff are just like no other. They really do a tremendous job in supporting the people that, either live with us or come to our programs on a daily basis. Throughout this pandemic, they left their own families at home to come and care for the people that we're supporting. And they did it because they love what they do. They're passionate about it. And these staff make miracles happen every day at Joanio. We have helped children that have come to us not able to speak And by the end of the time they're getting services, they're singing. Those are just the type of special things that happen every day. And that's because of our staff and because of their dedication to what we do. So, I mean, I can't speak highly enough about the staff that we have working for us and just what a tremendous job that they do every day, but even more so during that pandemic when they were leaving their own families at home to come to work every day.
And if I might, I'd like to ask, what's your feeling there? What drives you? What motivates you to run a huge organization like that, which must have, I mean, it's vast. It must have its enormous challenges as well. What motivates you to continue with Joanio?
You know, it's really the rewards of helping the people that we're supporting and helping our staff, you know, improve their lives is really what drives me. You know, every day that I come to work, I hear a story about how Joanio's impacted somebody's life, how they came, you know, like I said, they couldn't speak when they came. And then I meet somebody 20 years later and they're like, you know, Joanio changed my life. To work for an organization that has that type of impact is what really drives people to do what they do. And again, our staff, you know, to come into work and see how compassionate and caring they are, and to know that they put our people first, it's just an incredible feeling. And I don't think you can get that in any organization.
Right. And what do you see for the future for Joanio and for yourself? What do you see in the future?
Yeah, so, you know, at the core of everything we do, we really just want to, you know, help people, right? We want to provide programs that are a resource to our community and address whatever the needs are in our community. So our goal right now is to continue growing our existing programs and to, you know, be innovative in what we're doing and bring in those resources. So like we're adding that Autism Resource and Training Center. It was definitely a need in the community and something that we said, yeah, we have to do this. We have to be able to give back to our community and provide them with the resources they need to really understand autism spectrum disorders. So just keeping in line with that and improving the lives of the people that we're supporting and developing new social businesses that can get more people out to work is really where our focus is right now.
And you have a website, a beautiful website. Please tell people how they can find out more about Joanio, get in touch with you, and take advantage of these incredible services. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely. They can go to www.joanio.org. On there, you'll get to see all of the programs that we're offering, ways that you can help. We have lots of different fundraisers that we're doing. I mentioned the Hometown Heroes. We have our golf outing on June 6th. At the end of the year, we have our gala on December 4th. It will be virtual this year, but those are great ways for people to get involved. We're always looking for people that are interested in volunteering for us. We get a lot of businesses that come in and, you know, they'll do like a volunteer day and they'll help come and mulch our houses or, you know, do some gardening for us. So there's many ways that people can come in and help out at Joanio. And we're certainly appreciative of everything our community does.
Well, I'm appreciative of you joining us here on Being Frank. Chief Executive Officer of Joanio, Randy Rios Castro. Thank you so much for taking time out of a busy schedule to join us here on Being
Really
Frank. Thank you.
appreciative you having me.
My pleasure. We'll have you back again.
Okay.
Folks, don't go away. We've got a whole half of a show left to go with the professor, my go-to guy with anything dealing with the First Amendment. Dr. Paul Levinson will join us after these brief commercial messages. You're with Being Frank. I'm your host, Frank LeBon. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
HudsonRiverRadio.com. Mercedes Kent here. Did you know you can now subscribe to all of Hudson River Radio's podcasts, including The Silver Screen? And they're always available right in our Hudson River Radio app. You can hear our podcasts anytime and anywhere. You can also sponsor one of our shows to get your message heard locally and around the world. Just shoot an email to info@hudsonriverradio.com and we'll get you started. That's info@hudsonriverradio.com.
Subscribe to The Silver Screen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Gail Newcomb here. Did you know you can now subscribe to all of Hudson River Radio's podcasts, including Paranormally Yours? and they're always available right in our Hudson River Radio app. You can also sponsor one of our shows to get your message heard locally and around the world. Just shoot an email to info@hudsonriverradio.com and we'll get you started. That's info@hudsonriverradio.com.
Subscribe to Paranormally Yours on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, or wherever you get your podcasts.
HudsonRiverRadio.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to Being Frank. I'm your host, Frank Lebrono. We're in the midst of our intelligent conversation, and we are streaming live wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts from our studios in Stony Point, New York. It's Hudson River Radio. Joining us now, a regular guest on our program because he is the go-to guy for First Amendment issues, and we got two big ones to talk about. Professor Paul Levinson. Professor, thank you for joining us once again on Being Frank.
My pleasure as always, Frank.
Two biggie that I know you're going to have two biggies. I know we're both going to have a field day with, and I was thinking, which one should I start? Well, let's start with Elon Musk. Okay, the world's richest man, who's rich beyond anyone's imagination, and that's kind of part of the conversation. It really is. Rich and powerful men taking over media like Twitter. So let's get right to it. Good thing, bad thing. He promises now unrestricted free speech. And I know that's been one of your things in the past, has been very, very limited in terms of what kind of speech should be restricted. So your feelings, your sentiments.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, it just goes to show you, here you have a communication system that's arguably the most important in the world, because even though Facebook and TikTok have billions of users, far more than Twitter has,
Yes.
Twitter is the place where presidents talk,
Yes.
for better or worse. And it is the closest thing to a public square, which is one thing that Elon Musk is correct about. And let me also say and preface this by mentioning that I have enormous respect for some of what Elon Musk has done. I've been an advocate of human beings getting out into space for as long as I can remember. I've always thought it was very depressing, to say the least, that we human beings walked on the moon in 1969, and we haven't gotten any further since then.
Yeah.
And
Not
so
even
that
back.
exactly. And as kids, we both probably thought, hey, it's just going to be a few more years before we're out to Mars and Venus and who knows where else. And I want to see that happen because I love Star Trek and all of those things. And Elon Musk has made and is making an important contribution with his SpaceX rocketry. And one of his prime objectives is to get people to Mars. And I believe that he will succeed in doing that. So he gets a big plus from me about that. The other thing that I have to give him credit for is we're obviously in the midst of a very serious climate crisis. And most scientists agree completely that what is making the crisis worse and worse are cars driving around using gasoline. Their emissions add to the carbon dioxide. One thing leads to another. It's a very bad, deleterious system. And Musk is making an important contribution to reversing that with his Tesla car, which is an all-electric car. Mm-hmm. There are other all-electric cars, but he has been in the forefront. And I'll tell you the truth, I drive a Prius and I love it, but that's only halfway there because the Prius is a hybrid. If I were a rich man, I'd buy a Tesla for sure. So who knows, maybe being on Frank so often, I'll somehow get...
So they'll hear this and they'll send you Tesla. We should be so lucky.
Oh, I bet, exactly. So the reason why I say that is I want everyone to know that I've been a great admirer of a lot of what Elon Musk has done. But I have to say, I do not agree with his definition of free speech and free expression. And one of the things which really caught my attention at the beginning of the Russian invasion of Ukraine is Musk announced that he's going to give his Starlink system to the Ukrainians. Starlink is part of his SpaceX work, and what it is basically a telecom system. It's a very advanced, very effective system. So I said, great, I was happy to hear that. But then someone asked him, well, the Russians, they're currently on that system. Are you going to lock them out? And Elon Musk, with his typical sarcasm, said, well, I guess you don't accept what I say when I tell you I'm an absolutist as far as freedom of expression. I'm not going to take away any communications from the Russians. And I stopped right there and I said, there are limits. And you may recall you and I talked about.
Yes, this is a conversation we have had. Yes.
That's right.
Please, again.
That's right. And when human lives are involved or jeopardized, that's where I draw the line. And, I just finished writing an article about social media. It's going to be published in a Polish journal. And don't worry, I'll be talking about it online, in the next month or two. But as part of the article about the evolution of social media, I ended it with Elon Musk buying Twitter. And I did a little research, and I sort of vaguely knew this anyway, but he has an awful record regarding tweets about COVID.
Yes.
For example, he said hydrochloroquine, which is useless, total bogus, typical Trumpist nonsense, idea for a cure. Musk was all on board with that. He picked up somewhere, this part is true, that children might be more resistant, might have a better response to the COVID virus than adults. But no one ever said that children are immune. But somehow Musk picked that up. Some conspiracy theorist nutcase, probably more than one said that. And so he tweeted point blank, hey, parents, you don't need to worry about your kids. They're essentially immune from COVID. That's an incredibly dangerous thing to say because parents do need to be careful about what their kids are exposed to. And he's done this over and over again. You may recall in the very earliest days of the pandemic, so we're talking about the beginning of 2020, Trump, the medical genius, said, hey, you know what? It was something like March 2020. It'll be over by the end of April. It'll be over by Easter.
And we're still at it.
Exactly. But Elon Musk tweeted that and said, you know what? Yeah, people are getting too upset about this. So those kinds of communications, those kinds of tweets, they're not all the same. But certainly tweeting about a drug that's useless and saying that it's a worthwhile drug, that also could endanger human lives.
So, Paul, where does it bring us with the bottom line? A good thing, a bad thing? Is there anything we can do about it? Should there be anything we should do about it? What are your feelings?
It's a very tough situation in terms of what can we do about it, because we live in a country and a world in which if somebody has enough money, it doesn't matter how important the system is. You have $50 billion you can throw at it, you can own the system. And we would have to change the law to say, well, no, you can buy it, you on the other hand can't. I wouldn't want to see that happen either. But what I do think people need to do is stand up to Elon Musk. He needs to be educated. He needs to take a course at Fordham University, and maybe he'll learn a little bit more about freedom of expression. Opinions are fine, and nobody should crack down on opinions. But broadcasting, tweeting, disinformation, which endangers human lives, that's not okay. Musk has said, hey, I'm not going to do anything that's illegal. So maybe there's some hope for him. But to sum this up, I'm concerned about Elon Musk buying Twitter. I'm sorry that it happened. I'm hoping for the best. I think there's a chance it could work out. It could result in some very dangerous things.
Let's remind everybody you're watching Being Frank. I'm your host, Frank Lebrono, my very special guest, Professor Paul Levinson, my colleague at Fordham University, an expert in First Amendment right issues. Well, here's a good one for you. The football coach from Bellington, Washington, Joseph Kennedy, this is the First Amendment versus the Second Amendment head to head, where you have let's give a little bit of the backstory. You have a football coach, a high school football coach, who after games would go to the 50-yard line to bow his head in prayer. From my understanding, is in the beginning he did it kind of individually by himself, then was joined by some players, then encouraged other players to join him, other teams joined him. Eventually, I understand a parent complained and said, "Isn't that against our principles of separation of the so-called establishment clause, establishing the separation of church and state?" But then the First Amendment came in and counterpunched and said, "But wait a minute, we are entitled to express ourselves freely and express our religion freely." So now you have these two concepts going head to head. Professor, where do we go with this one?
Well, let me tell you that unlike Musk buying Twitter, which I'm just very concerned about, this is a debate which I think is a very healthy debate because it indeed, as you just said, it pits two fundamental rights against each other. And that is a very good way for people to understand the depths and the complexity of these rights, how complicated it is. And yes, it's even more complicated than that, as a matter of fact, because just on the religious point, somebody wanting to do a prayer, for the government to say, you can't do that, that's violating the prohibition of the government trying to regulate religion, because the Supreme Court has said over these hundreds of years that the government can't do a thing about religion. I mean, they could if the religion is some kind of psycho religion and they kill people, they sacrifice people, because there again, they're doing a crime. But just the practice of a religion, the government is never supposed to say or do anything about. But on the other hand, the same practice of religion by this coach is making some students feel uncomfortable. And they're entitled to go to this public school, and it is a public
yes, important to
higher ed
mention
school,
that.
right? Not a private school like Fordham University. So if it's a public school, it takes money from the state. It probably has got even federal funding to some extent. And therefore, those students are entitled to say, look, I want my freedom from the government espousing any religion to
from, and the key word is from as
that's
well.
right.
Not there's of
that's
and
right.
from, two key.
That's right. So you have two sides of the coin here, and that makes it, I think, a fascinating and very difficult issue. And I'll tell you honestly what I'm thinking. First of all, I don't think this is the best example of the government stepping in and preventing a religion from being exercised. The best example, meaning that the government is obligated under the separation of church and state to stop that. What would be a great example? Oh, I don't know. If a public institution said to a faculty member, you know what, if you don't say a prayer in your class, a public institution, we're not going to give you tenure, or we're not going to give you a raise. Or if a public institution would say to a student, you better come in, and the first thing you do, there's a mezuzah, that's like a Jewish religious thing on the doorway. You better, kiss that mezuzah and, think about some religious thing. In both cases, that would be putting too much of an emphasis on religion, and I think that would be a violation. But what's happening here is the coach is saying this prayer. I understand that it makes students uncomfortable, but is being uncomfortable enough of an inconvenience? Is it enough of a limitation of the student's right to practice religion freely that the coach should be denied that right? And I'll tell you the truth, it's a tough decision, but were I on the Supreme Court, and much as I don't like ever agreeing with conservatives, I might well vote with conservatives on this one.
Very
And
interesting.
yeah, and because
Very
again,
interesting.
I'll tell you what I would do. I'm not a football player or anything like that, but I used to play a little softball
Mhm.
or whatever. And if I had a coach who's doing that, I would just ignore it.
Right.
Why? I don't care. What I want to do if I'm out there playing ball, I used to play, center field. And I want to make sure I'm in the right place. If somebody hits a ball, I'll be able to run and catch it. I don't care if the coach plays.
I remember as a kid, and I did play a number of organized sports, and particularly football, and we had one coach who was old world kind of conservative, even wore a suit on game days. When was the last time you saw that? That's how old world conservative was. And he would always lead us in a pregame prayer. And I was, believe it or not, even at that time, somewhat aware of the awkwardness because, and I grew up in Fort Lee, it was a fairly sizable Jewish population as well, and played with a couple of Jewish kids. And I was always wondering what they were thinking. And I guess, like you said, they probably bowed their head and just ignored most of what was going on. But I thought it had to be somewhat awkward for them as well. Is it a situation where it's enough to stop somebody else from doing something that most of us, within reason, would consider to be reasonably harmless? I just wanted to make one point and of something I heard and get your comments on it. I read an article, and I think I may have forwarded it to you. It was very interesting and explained how the difference where if a teacher is in the cafeteria and bows his or her head in silent prayer before eating, there would be no issue because it's not demonstrative. In a sense, it's on his own time. The difference being that the coach was in a demonstrative position, so that may have elevated it to a slightly different level. Is that splitting hairs, Professor? It might be in my mind.
Yeah, I think it is because the difference between praying silently and praying out loud, I get it. Obviously, if somebody is praying out loud, other people can hear it. So it could be more disturbing to someone who is irritated by that than someone who just does it silently. But again, so what? Look the other way. I mean, this is part of the problem, I think, of the world today.
Okay, please
We're
expand on that.
well, basically, look, we need to be concerned about what other people do for sure, but we have to learn, I think, the world, everyone in the world, has to learn to be a little less upset about things that are not directed against us, but just passing by, we might see them. And, the whole government religious thing, let's face it, the United States has been very hypocritical about it because I've heard atheists complain many, many times. What's this in God we trust? Atheists say, I don't trust in God. I don't think God exists.
Well,
Or even if you're an agnostic and you're not sure, well, I don't know. It's a complicated thing. I don't have the answers to these questions. But my government is saying, in God we trust. And I think, there somehow it's okay for the government to do that, to put that phrase everywhere. And or as we well know, around Judeo-Christian holiday time, Hanukkah and Christmas, you see Christmas trees up all over the place. You see Hanukkah menorahs. So is that something that shouldn't be allowed? Because if somebody, if some kind of anti-Semitic person drives by a public building and sees a lit menorah there, does that person have the right to say, hey, I'm driving down this public street. I don't want to see that. That offends me. So what I would say to that person, it offends you, too bad. Drive down another street or close your eyes and make sure you're not driving when you close your eyes. And, you don't have to see it that way. So again, this has to do with often we have a situation where there is a conflict of rights, and it's a tough thing to do, but we need to try to decide which right is the more important right. And in this case, it seems to me the right not to be disturbed, which is what the students want. They don't want to be disturbed by hearing a prayer. They're there to play football.
Mhm.
But the right of the coach, who religion is such an important part of his life. And I might not believe in his religion. It doesn't matter. I might even be an atheist. It doesn't matter. But I have control, not to get so upset if somebody is doing that. And it means so much to this coach. Again, were I on the Supreme Court, it'll never happen. But
You know, I was gonna ask- yeah.
I would vote to say, yeah, let this
let
go.
let him do it. Well, you know what? We could have intelligent conversation like we're having right now, Professor. I think that's the key. I think both you and I believe that that's what we're lacking. If we had a little bit more of it, like we've had tonight, also with Randy Rios Castro, uh, the world would be a better place with a little bit more patience, a little more intelligent conversation, and we might be doing just fine.
I agree. I think, we live in a polarized world. And to sort of conclude this, going back to social media, one of the things that social media has done is it has, to some extent, replaced intelligent conversation with provocative conversation.
Interesting.
Because it's the provocative, outrageous thing that gets the most amount of tweets and likes and tweets condemning it. Simply intelligent conversation. Okay, thanks.
It's interesting that you would say that, because some of the feedback that I get, and I love it all, and I take it all in, is that, I tend to pick guests who are somewhat like-minded. So there's no controversy, if you will. There's no pushback. And I understand that, and I appreciate that there's no provocateur, because in general it does make for more. Look at Joe Rogan, one of our subjects. One of the reasons he's so popular is he's so controversial. He says shit sometimes just for the sake of saying it, and he's not the only one. I could give you a list, as you well know, who have become famous basically for saying controversial things, sometimes whether they're true or not. I've kind of I've chosen a different path to a degree, but I also at times feel the pressure of, well, you might get more ratings, you might get more eyeballs if you were just a little bit more controversial. So, a lot
Well,
of pressure there.
there is. I think, though, you choose provocative enough topics that even if you have a situation where two people are having an intelligent conversation about a provocative topic, it still should attract enough people.
Well, I appreciate that. But I'm glad it attracts you to come back to the show. You'll always be welcome here. Professor, my colleague at Fordham University, Paul Levinson, thank you so much. And you're always busy. You're writing the Beatles, music. People should, you're public on Facebook, right? People should check you out. He's incredible, guys. He does so much. Paul, again, thank you so much for joining us on Being Frank. You're welcome anytime.
My pleasure, Frank.
Okay. Neil, thanks for driving the bus. He's up in the corner. I don't know if you can see him, but I can hear. Neil Richter, our engineer, thank you. And of course, thank you for joining us every Thursday night at Being Frank, streaming on the World Wide Web. If I can only speak, let's try that once again. The World Wide Web at Hudson River Radio. Don't go anywhere yet. Remember, at the bottom of the hour, we've got Scott and Alex and the Hudson River Jam. And then we got some original music from my friend Phil Sexton, did a beautiful guitar riff for the people of Ukraine. We don't forget them. We don't forget our friend Phil Ittner, who is still there, still battling away, and will until the job is done. I'm your host, Frank Lebrono. I want to thank you once again for joining us on Being Frank. Tune in again next Thursday. We're here every Thursday live at 7:30. Check us out on your favorite podcast platform. We'll see you next week. Thanks again.
This is HudsonRiverRadio.com, your local Rockland County station.
Attention all small businesses in Rockland County and the Hudson Valley.